The somber, light November rain transformed the cemetery into a melancholy scene, setting a grim backdrop for Victoria Blackwood's life-altering discovery. There, before her son Adrienne's elegant marble tomb, stood a young black woman in a simple waitress uniform, cradling a small child, both weeping inconsolably, as if their world had collapsed around them. Victoria halted abruptly, her gloved hands clenching the bouquet of pristine white lilies almost instinctively. At 55, the formidable heiress to the Blackwood Industries empire had never encountered these two individuals before, yet something in the woman's dignified posture and the child's delicate features inexplicably quickened Victoria's heart, stirring an unexpected emotional response. "Excuse me," Victoria asserted, her voice cutting through the cemetery's silence like a sharp blade. "This is a private moment. You're in the wrong place." The young woman slowly lifted her face, revealing eyes red and swollen from crying. "I'm sorry, I didn't know anyone was coming today," she murmured, her voice trembling slightly, but possessing an unexpected dignity that surprised Victoria. "Who are you?" Victoria pressed, her ruthless business instincts immediately kicking into high gear. "And why are you crying at my son's grave?" The child, a boy of about 4, looked up at Victoria with bright green eyes, eyes she knew all too well, eyes she had seen in her own reflection for decades, eyes identical to Adrienne's. "My name is Jasmine Washington," the young woman replied softly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "And this is Tyler. I work at Bell's Diner in town. I come here every month because—" She hesitated, glancing at the child. "Because Adrienne was important to us." The world seemed to spin around Victoria as the revelation hit her. Adrienne had died 3 years prior in a car accident at the tender age of 28, extinguishing all the aspirations she had meticulously nurtured for the Blackwood family legacy. She had exhaustively scrutinized every detail of his life in the aftermath of the funeral, desperately seeking some semblance of meaning in his profound loss, yet had unearthed no evidence of any serious romantic relationships, much less the existence of a child. "Important how?" Victoria demanded, her voice dropping an octave, as the rain began to intensify, though none of the three moved. Jasmine looked directly into Victoria's eyes, displaying a courage that genuinely surprised the billionaire. "Because Tyler is his son," she stated. "And because I promised her that I would always take care of him, no matter what." The bouquet of lilies slipped from Victoria's suddenly slackened hands, the pristine white petals scattering tragically across the cold, unforgiving stone of the grave. For 3 long years she had been shrouded in mourning for Adrienne's death, convinced that her illustrious bloodline had irrevocably ended with him. Now, in one devastating moment, she was confronted with the shocking reality of a grandson, a black child, being raised by a mere waitress and living a life utterly beyond anything she could have ever conceived for a Blackwood. Yet, there was an unsettling quality in Jasmine's eyes, a caution, a hidden fear, as if she were guarding secrets far more significant than merely Tyler's existence. What Victoria failed to grasp was that this profound revelation was only the initial thread in a vast, intricate web of lies and betrayals involving individuals very close to her, and that Jasmine's seemingly apparent vulnerability actually concealed a formidable strength, a power that was poised to fundamentally shake the very foundations of Victoria's privileged and meticulously constructed world. 2 weeks following that chance encounter in the cemetery, Victoria had transformed her opulent private library into a strategic command center. Reports from private investigators lay spread across the antique, century-old mahogany table, each page unveiling new details about Jasmine Washington's life that left Victoria feeling progressively more disturbed and unsettled. Single, no known family, works 60 hours a week at 2 jobs to support her child, Victoria muttered to herself, meticulously leafing through the documents. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment on the poor side of town. No formal education beyond high school. Her personal assistant, David Chun, stood silently beside the armchair, a silent observer. He had witnessed Victoria dismantle vast corporate empires with far less visible emotion than she was now displaying in her relentless pursuit of information about this woman. What about the child's mother? Victoria inquired, her icy blue eyes fixed on a grainy photograph of Tyler playing in a public playground. Here's where it gets interesting, David responded, opening a separate folder. We couldn't find a birth certificate, hospital records, or any official documentation about who gave birth to Tyler. It's as if his biological mother never existed. Victoria began to tap her fingers rhythmically on the polished table, a subtle yet chilling habit that her executives had long since learned to deeply fear. 3 years prior, upon Adrienne's death, Victoria had exhaustively investigated every second of his life, desperately searching for meaning, for clues, for anything that might justify her profound loss, but she had never found any evidence of serious relationships. Now, she commanded, "Schedule a meeting with this Jasmine," pronouncing the name as if it were an alien word. "In my office, tomorrow at 2. The very next day, Jasmine arrived at the imposing Blackwood Industries headquarters, dressed in her best, and only, suit, purchased from a thrift store. The towering 60-story building seemed to challenge her to enter, its gleaming glass walls reflecting a distorted image of herself. Victoria received her in her top-floor office, where the expansive window offered a commanding panoramic view of the entire city, a deliberate and calculated display of power, a fact both women implicitly understood. "Sit down," Victoria instructed, gesturing toward a chair strategically positioned lower than her own. "We need to talk about Tyler." Jasmine, however, remained standing. "I'd rather stand." "Thank you," she replied with quiet resolve. "As you wish," Victoria conceded, opening a folder on her desk. "I've looked into you, Miss Washington. 2 jobs, no savings, living in conditions unsuitable for a child. Tyler is well cared for and loved," Jasmine countered, her voice calm but unwavering. Victoria smiled, a cold, empty smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure you do your best. But a Blackwood child deserves more than your best. He deserves the best money can buy." "And what exactly are you suggesting?" Jasmine inquired. $200,000, Victoria declared, smoothly sliding a check across the table. "To start. Tyler comes to live with me, gets the education he deserves. The future Adrienne would have wanted for him. You can visit him on weekends, of course." Jasmine stared at the check as if it were a venomous snake. "Are you trying to buy my son?" she demanded. "He's not your son," Victoria retorted, her mask of civility beginning to visibly slip. "He's my grandson. Blood of my blood. And frankly, a waitress in her 20s can't offer him what a family like ours can." "Family?" Jasmine scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Victoria, may I call you Victoria? You want to hear about family? Tyler has called me Mom for 3 years. I wake up with him in the middle of the night when he has nightmares. I teach him math at the kitchen table. I read him bedtime stories. That's family." Victoria stood, her imposing height now towering over Jasmine. "Noble sentiments, perhaps, but the reality is harsh," Victoria asserted. "You work like a slave just to pay rent that probably devours half your income. Tyler deserves private schools, trips around the world, opportunities you can never truly provide him. And he deserves unconditional love," Jasmine shot back. "Something you clearly didn't give your own son." The silence that followed was utterly deafening. Victoria felt as though she had been physically slapped. "How dare you?" she whispered. "Adrienne told me about you," Jasmine continued, her voice low but cutting. "About the missed meetings, the football games you never went to, the birthdays where you merely sent expensive gifts through an assistant. You want Tyler because he's a second chance to clear your conscience, not because you truly care about him." Victoria clenched her fists tightly. "You don't know me." "No, but I've met your son," Jasmine countered. "And I know exactly why he never mentioned Tyler to you." With a deliberate motion, Jasmine took the check and tore it decisively in half, the pieces fluttering to the floor like withered petals. "Tyler isn't for sale," she declared. "Then we'll do this the hard way," Victoria said, her voice acquiring a dangerous, chilling edge. "I have resources you can't even imagine, lawyers, investigators, connections at every level of government. I can prove that a single mother with no formal education living in poverty is not in the best interest of the child." For the first time since she had entered the office, Jasmine smiled, and something in that smile caused Victoria to hesitate. "Victoria," Jasmine said softly, "you're assuming I'm just a poor waitress you can intimidate. But there are things about me, about Tyler, about Adrienne that you haven't discovered yet. And when you do..." She paused, her eyes flashing with a profound determination that genuinely surprised the billionaire. Well, let's just say your investigators aren't as good as you think they are. She turned and headed for the door, pausing only to look back over her shoulder. And Victoria, the next time you want to talk about Tyler, it will be on my terms, not yours. After Jasmine departed, Victoria stood alone in her opulent office, the floor still littered with the torn pieces of the check. For the first time in decades, someone had walked away from a negotiation with her, holding all the cards. What Victoria simply could not comprehend was why a mere waitress displayed such unshakable, almost arrogant confidence. It was as if Jasmine possessed some secret knowledge, some concealed card up her sleeve that rendered all of Victoria's formidable threats and immense power utterly irrelevant. Even more disturbing, for the very first time in her life, Victoria Blackwood felt a profound sense that she was being watched, studied, and evaluated by someone who saw directly through all her meticulously constructed defenses, and was not at all impressed with what she found on the other side. 3 days after the heated confrontation in the office, Victoria received a call that left her utterly stunned. Her lead attorney, Richard Thornton of the renowned firm Thornton & Associates, sounded uncharacteristically nervous, an extremely rare occurrence in their 20 years of partnership. "Victoria, I need to tell you something about the custody case," he began, his voice tense and strained. "I got a call today. Miss Washington's legal representation. She hired a lawyer," Victoria scoffed, drumming her fingers dismissively on the table. "With what money? It must be some unprepared public defender. Actually," Richard paused, a note of trepidation in his voice. "It's Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce. They're representing her pro bono." Victoria nearly spilled her coffee in shock. Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce was undeniably one of the 3 largest law firms in the entire country, specializing in high-profile civil rights cases, and renowned for never losing a major court battle. "That's impossible!" Victoria exclaimed. "Why would they be interested in some waitress?" "I don't know," Richard admitted. "But there's more. They've already filed a preventive petition claiming that any attempt to forcibly remove the child would constitute legal kidnapping based on socioeconomic discrimination." Victoria slammed down the phone hard enough to crack the receiver. Jasmine had played her first card, and it was a strategic move far more powerful than Victoria had ever imagined possible. Meanwhile, in Jasmine's modest apartment, a vastly different and equally significant meeting was taking place. The cramped room was crowded with individuals Victoria would never have expected to find there: Dr. Michael Chun, a distinguished professor of law at Columbia University, Amanda Torres, an acclaimed investigative journalist renowned for her hard-hitting reports on corporate corruption, and at the center of it all, an elegant woman in her 50s whom Jasmine treated with obvious affection and profound respect. "And Helen, thank you for coming," Jasmine said warmly, embracing the woman. "I know you had a long flight from Chicago." Helen Washington smiled, her intelligent eyes sparkling with the same fierce fire and determination Jasmine had displayed in Victoria's imposing office. "Child, when you called me and said the time had finally come, I canceled all my appointments," Helen declared. "We've been waiting for this moment for 3 years." Tyler played innocently on the floor, completely oblivious to the immense importance of the conversation unfolding around him. Dr. Chun opened a thick folder filled with a multitude of documents and photographs. "Jasmine, are you sure you want to do this?" he inquired, his tone serious. "Once we start, there's no turning back. Victoria Blackwood has immense resources and will not hesitate to use every single one of them." "Dr. Chun," Jasmine replied, her voice calm but utterly determined. "I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Every night class I've taken, every law book I've read, every contact I've cultivated, it's all been to protect Tyler and honor Adrienne's memory." Amanda Torres looked up from her laptop, her expression impressed. "The evidence you've gathered is truly impressive, Jasmine. 3 years of meticulous documentation of Blackwood Industries' questionable business practices, including insidious bribes to local politicians and systematic labor violations." Helen walked over to the window, gazing out at the modest view from the apartment. "Victoria thinks her immense wealth makes her untouchable," she mused. "She has no idea that my niece has spent the last 3 years meticulously studying her every move, every dirty deal, every tax evasion scheme. Aunt Helen taught business law at the University of Chicago for 30 years. Jasmine explained to Dr. Chun. She's the one who taught me that knowledge is the only weapon they can't buy or steal from you. Just then, Jasmine's phone rang. It was Victoria, her fury palpable. What game are you playing? Victoria shrieked into the phone. Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce. How does a waitress get lawyers of that caliber? Jasmine put the phone on speaker, allowing everyone in the room to hear. Victoria, I warned you that there were things about me you hadn't discovered yet. I don't care what tricks you're using. Tyler is my grandson, and I have unlimited resources to get what I want. Victoria ranted. Unlimited resources? Jasmine responded, a knowing smile playing on her lips as she looked at her allies. Victoria, you're operating under the assumption that money is the sole kind of power that exists. Jasmine articulated. But what if I told you there's something infinitely more powerful? And what would that be? Victoria scoffed. The truth, Jasmine stated simply. Victoria laughed dismissively. Truth doesn't pay expensive lawyers. You're right, Jasmine conceded. But the truth about your illegal business dealings, about how you meticulously built your empire through fraudulent contracts and systematic bribery, that truth is worth much, much more than money to certain people. The silence on the other end of the line was utterly deafening. You're bluffing, Victoria finally managed to say, but her voice had noticeably lost its previous confident edge. Amanda Torres from the Metropolitan newspaper would like to speak with you, Jasmine announced, calmly handing the phone to the investigative reporter. Good afternoon, Miss Blackwood, Amanda said, her voice professional and unwavering. I'm currently finalizing an investigative series on questionable corporate practices. I'd like to extend to you the opportunity to comment on the allegations we've meticulously documented. Victoria immediately hung up the phone. Helen smiled proudly at her niece. Jasmine, you've learned well, she commended. Never attack head-on when you can flank. Dr. Chun closed his briefcase, indicating completion. The legal strategy is solid. We have ample precedents where attempts to remove children based purely on socioeconomic status have been deemed discriminatory. And I have 3 years of exhaustive research on every dirty deal Victoria has ever made, Amanda added. Contracts with shell companies, suspicious payments to public officials, covered up environmental violations, more than enough to utterly destroy any reputation. Jasmine picked up Tyler, the boy smiling innocently at the adults gathered around him. What Victoria doesn't understand, Jasmine reflected, is that I'm not just fighting for Tyler. I'm fighting against an entire system that believes money can buy everything, including the right to destroy families. Helen approached, placing a comforting hand on Jasmine's shoulder. Your mother would be incredibly proud of you, daughter, she said softly. She always taught that education was the only inheritance no one could ever take away from you. Aunt Helen raised me after my parents died, Jasmine explained to the others. She taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you're going. And she taught me that sometimes, to protect what you truly love, you have to be willing to go to war. The phone rang again, almost immediately. This time, it was Victoria's lawyer. Miss Washington, my client would like to propose a settlement, he stated. $500,000 in supervised visits. Jasmine looked at her allies, all shaking their heads in unison. Mr. Thornton, please inform your client that Tyler is not for sale at any price, Jasmine replied firmly. And tell her she has 48 hours to withdraw any legal threats against our family, or else, on Monday morning, the Metropolitan Journal will publish a full series on the questionable business practices of Blackwood Industries. And I'm quite certain the IRS will be very interested in some of the documents we've obtained. After hanging up, Amanda smiled, a glint of anticipation in her eyes. Jasmine, are you truly ready for this? Once we publish, Victoria will undoubtedly use every ounce of her power against you. Jasmine looked down at Tyler, who was now sleeping peacefully in her arms. Amanda, I've lived for 3 years knowing this day would inevitably come, she responded. Victoria thinks her wealth makes her invincible, but she's never faced anyone who's had the luxury of time to prepare properly. Dr. Chun stood up, gathering his papers. The legal petition will be filed tomorrow. The precedents are unequivocally on our side. Helen kissed Jasmine's forehead. Remember, daughter, they may possess all the money, but we have the truth. That night, While Tyler slept soundly, Jasmine opened a sturdy trunk in her room. Inside were numerous diplomas from Night Law School, certificates from advanced management programs, letters of recommendation from renowned professors, and at the very bottom, a faded photograph of herself with Adrian and a young woman with fair skin. It was the photograph Victoria had never seen, the photograph that profoundly explained not only who Tyler's mother truly was, but also precisely why Jasmine had prepared so meticulously and patiently for this ultimate confrontation. Victoria Blackwood was about to discover that underestimating someone can be the most costly and devastating mistake a person can make, and that sometimes the sweetest revenge doesn't come through brute force, but through unwavering patience, meticulous preparation, and the perfect, opportune moment to reveal truths that some people would do absolutely anything to keep buried. What Victoria didn't know yet was that the battle for Tyler's custody was merely the first move in a much larger, more intricate game. It was a strategic game Jasmine had been meticulously planning since the very day Adrian died, a game poised to expose profound secrets that could obliterate not only Victoria's carefully constructed reputation, but also the entire empire she had built upon a foundation of lies. On Monday morning, Victoria awoke to an alarming 37 missed calls on her cell phone. Her personal assistant David stood outside her bedroom door, holding a tablet with an expression she had never before witnessed on his face, genuine, unadulterated fear. "Victoria, you need to see this," he urged, handing her the device with trembling hands. The bold headline of the metropolitan newspaper filled the screen. "Empire built on corruption. Leaked documents revealed decades of crimes at Blackwood Industries." Victoria felt her legs give way beneath her. Below the damning headline, dozens of scanned documents laid bare fraudulent contracts, illegal payments to influential politicians, and elaborate money laundering schemes. Each page was a death sentence for her meticulously cultivated reputation. "How did they get this?" she whispered, frantically scrolling through the damning article. There were photographs of secret meetings she was absolutely certain no one had documented, and recordings of conversations that should have remained strictly private. Her phone rang again. It was Richard Thornton, her lawyer. "Victoria, it's a complete disaster," he stated bluntly, his voice devoid of its usual composure. "The IRS has already issued search warrants. The FBI is actively en route to your home. And there's more. The Securities and Exchange Commission has suspended all trading of Blackwood Industries stock." Victoria hung up abruptly and immediately called Jasmine, her hands shaking uncontrollably with a mixture of rage and profound despair. "You!" she screamed, her voice cracking, the moment Jasmine answered. "You did this! How dare you destroy my life?" "Good morning, Victoria," Jasmine replied, her voice unnervingly calm, like a peaceful Sunday morning. "I imagine you've read the news. I'll destroy you. I'll use every resource I have to," Victoria raged. "What resource?" Jasmine softly interrupted. "Because from what I'm seeing here on the news, your bank accounts were frozen 15 minutes ago." Victoria rushed to her computer, her hands frantically typing passwords into various banking websites. "Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. This is impossible," she muttered, her voice weak. "Victoria, there's something my investigators didn't mention," Jasmine continued, her voice clear. "Amanda Torres doesn't work alone. She has a dedicated team specializing in financial crimes. Every single document you've fraudulently signed in the last 20 years has been meticulously tracked," Jasmine explained. The television in the living room showed live reports, reporters gathered in front of the once proud Blackwood Industries building, employees leaving, carrying boxes, their careers summarily destroyed in a single morning. The prestigious name Victoria had painstakingly built over decades was being publicly smeared live on national television. "Why?" Victoria asked, her voice breaking, a plea. "Why do this to me?" "Because you never bothered to ask about Tyler's mother," Jasmine said simply. "If you had, you would have found out that her name was Jessica Blackwood." Victoria's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Jessica was the daughter of Robert Blackwood," Jasmine continued. "Your cousin. The very same cousin you ruthlessly betrayed in 1995 to steal his rightful share of the family business." The memories came flooding back to Victoria. Robert, young and confident, signing documents Victoria had cunningly altered, the bitter family feud she had won through insidious lies and cold manipulation, his subsequent expulsion from the family. Jessica grew up poor because of your betrayal, Jasmine pressed on. She met Adrian in college. They fell deeply in love, but she was terrified to tell him who she truly was, knowing full well you would ruthlessly kick her out of his life, just as you did to her father. Victoria vaguely recalled Robert mentioning a daughter before he completely vanished from their lives. When Jessica tragically died in childbirth, Adrian came to me in desperation, Jasmine recounted. I was her best friend, and he knew Jessica wanted me to take care of Tyler. But Adrian also discovered the devastating truth about what you did to Jessica's family. Adrian knew? Victoria whispered, a dawning horror in her voice. He spent the last months of his life meticulously investigating you, Victoria, gathering irrefutable evidence of your crimes, Jasmine confirmed. When he died in that accident, he left everything to me, documents, recordings, irrefutable proof. He asked me to wait for the right moment. Victoria looked out the window and saw menacing FBI vans pulling up directly in front of her house. The accident, she began, her voice barely audible. It wasn't an accident, Jasmine said calmly, decisively. Adrian uncovered a money laundering scheme involving dangerous people. People you hired to take care of problems. They killed your own son, Victoria. The revelation struck Victoria like a physical blow. Adrian had died because he had exposed her crimes. She had, in essence, killed her own son through her insatiable greed. Tyler is the last legitimate Blackwood, Jasmine continued. Jessica was the legal heir to a fortune you stole, Jasmine reiterated. And now, with all your accounts frozen and your company confiscated, Tyler has finally received what was always rightfully his. Victoria heard heavy footsteps pounding up the stairs, followed by authoritative voices shouting. FBI! You planned this for 3 years, Victoria whispered, finally grasping the monumental scale of what had transpired. Adrian taught me that patience is the key to revenge, Jasmine replied, her voice firm. Every document I collected, every course I took, every contact I cultivated, it was all for this precise moment. The door burst open. Federal agents streamed in, brandishing arrest warrants. Victoria Blackwood, you're under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. As the cold click of handcuffs echoed around her wrists, Victoria heard Jasmine's voice one last time. Tyler will grow up knowing the truth about his family. He'll know that justice, even when it's slow, always comes. Television cameras captured Victoria being led away in handcuffs, her ignominious fall broadcast live to millions across the nation. The empire she had painstakingly built on a foundation of lies crumbled irrevocably in a mere matter of hours. That afternoon, Jasmine sat peacefully in the park with Tyler, watching him play joyfully on the playground. Her phone rang. It was Helen. Daughter, I saw the news. How do you feel? Helen asked. Like Adrian can finally rest in peace. Jasmine replied, watching Tyler laugh as he slid down the slide. And Tyler will grow up knowing that his family fought for justice, not revenge. What Victoria had discovered far too late was that Jasmine was not merely a determined waitress. She was the unwavering guardian of a stolen legacy, a remarkable woman who had transformed 3 years of quiet, painstaking preparation into the most perfect and meticulously executed act of justice the courts had ever witnessed. 2 years later, the Millbrook Women's State Prison was a starkly different environment from the luxurious penthouse office Victoria had once commanded. Dressed in a standard orange uniform, she worked in the laundry for a meager $2.50 an hour, an irony that was lost on absolutely no one. Blackwood, you have a visitor, the guard announced. Victoria expected to see her former lawyer or perhaps some persistent journalist. Instead, she found Jasmine in the visiting room, elegantly dressed in a sophisticated navy blue suit that alone cost more than Victoria earned in 6 months. I've come with news, Jasmine stated confidently. Tyler has just been accepted at Phillips Academy, the very same prestigious school Adrian attended, Jasmine announced. Full scholarship. Victoria felt a faint twinge of what might have been pride. Why are you telling me this? She inquired. Because you're his grandmother, and because Tyler asked me if bad people can become good, Jasmine explained. She paused thoughtfully. I told him it depended on whether they truly wanted to change. Jasmine opened a folder, revealing photographs of Tyler smiling brightly in his new school uniform. He's learning the violin, just like his father, she shared. His teacher says he's a natural. How can you afford all this? Victoria pressed. Jasmine smiled with genuine satisfaction. The fortune you stole from Jessica's family was returned by the courts. Tyler is now the sole heir to the entire legitimate Blackwood estate. Ironic, isn't it? Victoria closed her eyes, the weight of the irony crushing. And you? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. What did you get out of all this? I got the chance to give Tyler what you never gave Adrian, Jasmine replied with quiet conviction. A family that puts love above money. And the peace of knowing that Jessica and Adrian can finally rest. Jasmine stood up to leave. Tyler, is he happy? Victoria inquired. He's loved, Jasmine responded, a simple truth. And that's all that ever mattered. Meanwhile, Tyler ran joyfully through the sprawling garden of his new Connecticut home, a cozy property overlooking a serene lake. Jasmine watched him from the porch, a framed NBA degree subtly placed behind her. Mom, can I play the violin for you? Tyler shouted, running toward the house. Of course, my love, Jasmine replied, her thoughts drifting to how incredibly proud Adrian would have been. Helen Washington visited regularly, sharing cherished family stories that Tyler carried with profound pride. Aunt Helen taught me that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, Jasmine had explained to Tyler, but building something so beautiful that they regret not being a part of it. Tyler would grow up knowing that his family had fought fiercely for dignity, not for mere revenge. He would understand that even when the world seemed profoundly unfair, there was always a clever, determined way to rewrite the narrative. Victoria had tried desperately to buy a grandson, but she had discovered that true family cannot be bought. It is built through unwavering love and consistent presence. She had lost absolutely everything because she fatally confused power with true value, and money with genuine dignity. Jasmine's real triumph was not the destruction of Victoria, but rather the profound act of building a future where Tyler would never repeat the mistakes of the previous generation. This future ensured a child would grow up knowing that identity is not defined by skin color or a bank account, but by the profound strength of character. Victoria tried to use her money to steal Tyler, but she ultimately discovered that true love is priceless. Jasmine's actions proved definitively that persistence and intelligence consistently triumph over arrogance and prejudice. Have you ever faced someone who tried to diminish your dreams because of your origins? Leave a comment about how you reacted and subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true family is built with love, not money.